Oh yeah, Quack. I gotta tell you, I'm interrupting you because I just love watching the new intro too much. It's too good. It's too good.
I mean, I don't mind it. You're kind of having like an Oregon offensive line moment here. You know what I mean? Like you got so excited for the episode that you didn't think about like what you should do in order for us to win. Anyways, 12 in.
Yeah.
I am your host, Adam Chimeo.
And I'm Aaron Schroeder.
That's right. And this is the Quack 12 podcast, the most official, unofficial Oregon Ducks sporting podcast on the web footosphere. And Aaron, that was a little bit more exciting of a week one game than we planned. Was it not?
Here's what I think.
Let's hear it. Let's rip off the Band-Aid.
I actually think if you were if you tuned into that game as not really an Oregon fan or like just a college or football in general is a passing, like, oh sure, a game is on, I'll watch it. I would say that was probably the most boring game I could have picked for you to watch. It was like one team sweating so hard to win a game. They didn't have the stats to win.
Yeah.
And then another team who I don't know what happened. I mean, you said it. It was the offensive line, like yow.
Yeah.
But yeah, they definitely made it look like
as hard as possible, I would say.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is whenever they were actually playing football, it looked pretty easy to do whatever they needed to do. But at the same time, they constantly made it hard on themselves. Like, how many fourth downs were there? What the?
I think there were 3, if I'm remembering. We won one of them. We lost a really bad one, though. For me.
And a sack, brother.
Oh, I think there were 3 sacks, and then there was that one strip sack for the fumble, and that killed. I mean, that really soured the first half. And then I've just never seen a game. I probably have, being a little hyperbolic here, but like where it's a 3-point game in the fourth quarter. Don't get me wrong, I was absolutely afraid of like, oh, we could lose this if some stuff happens. I agree with you though, where it was like it was a 3-point game, but it still completely felt like Idaho was going deep into their bag of tricks.
Yes,
like nothing left, especially on offense. On defense, it was just like,
dude, they were dope. They were dope. They were burning full thrusters. Really, and see, that's the part of it that makes it boring to me. Is that this is a team. I think there was something like a 50+ point spread on this game,
44.5.
And then it's like, so you're like, oh shit, this is going to be one of them. Like Oregon's just going to be like giving a little, kickoff, like smashing the bottle, on the fucking battleship. But instead, they were like, huh? Did anybody buy champagne?
If it did, it better have stayed in the freaking ice, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Too many scary close call injury type things.
Yeah, you're right.
There's so much inside this that was like, I don't know actually I think it was a mental thing.
I think when it comes down to this is the easiest way to explain it in my head. This is truly the easiest thing.
They're just excited.
Well, no, they had a walk-on center. Boom. That explains every damn thing. And you can't say like he made every single mistake. No, but the man who was supposed to be our center, he gets moved to the right guard. And then, which is not the, position that he was especially looking forward to playing here. And then,
I mean, I feel like that was
a walk-on, so someone without a scholarship, plays one of the most crucial positions in all of football, the center. And I think that communication, and then also
I mean, the right side felt kind of soft as well.
Exactly.
So it was like,
well,
dang, they
right
keep
side.
getting past that guy.
That's the right guard, and that's the center.
Right.
Like, yeah. And
right.
Then,
why the fuck did we do that?
Matthew, well, we had an injury about 3 weeks, I'm guessing around 3 weeks before the start of the season. Matthew Bedford is supposed to just slide in there. You know, he was a transfer. He's a veteran, like was absolutely going to be a starter. He gets injured. Supposedly he's going to be back for Boise State. And I think there is at least a little bit of Lanning being like, this is Idaho. Like a little disrespect for Idaho, being like, we can use this as a practice opportunity.
Yeah.
We don't need to take crazy deep shots. We don't need to unload the playbook. And we don't even need to, let's say that offensive lineman, he could have been able to play. Who knows? But I think they were trying something else a little new. And then like the rotation of the O-line. I mean, you gotta gel, and they just weren't gelling. I think it comes
okay. A lot of it looked like, or there were a number of plays that looked like they were kind of opening up their book as well to see how maybe new ideas and principles have like sunk in a real world situation, and maybe they haven't sunk in all the way yet. I think that is maybe a part of it. There's some stuff from like, this isn't the game. The way they played wasn't totally what I was expecting to see.
Oh yeah.
You know, like the defense rocked.
Yeah, I think that's lost in it, is that the defense freaking ruled. They had to pull out a trick play after, you know, like Lanning being very, I mean, do you like Lanning? Then you're going to have to be okay with like the 4th and 1 in our own territory. You know what I mean?
That's right.
He was doing it for momentum, and
that's
he lost,
right. He's doing it for morale. What he's doing and what he should do.
What's that?
I hate to say it after game 1, but I don't think we dance. I don't think we think we
shout. Yeah.
I don't think we do it until these boys get those heads screwed on straight.
It was definitely
it's
like
dad
weirdest vibe shout that I've seen in a while. But Aaron, we have
it's a bunch of newbies, dude. Come on. They don't quite get it. They also probably can't drink, the majority of them. They all looked very sweet, young.
I don't think the age is preventing anyone from drinking in that crowd.
Oh no. Is that just a vibe there?
Correctly.
It's like basically New Orleans in the Northwest.
I mean, I remember one time going into a game, and the guy who's there to like, you know, check you for metal, he goes, "Hey, you got a flask on you or anything?" And I was like, "No." And he goes, "Why the hell not?" That's the guy who was supposed to check you. Anyways,
I thought he's gonna be like, "Hey man, you like anthrax?" And you'd be like, "Yes." And he'd be like, "Fuck yeah, metal."
Oh, well, luckily the security people there are not talking about anthrax in a positive way. Aaron.
Yo.
I know it's a man. There was someone who was there who's actually like an on-field reporter to check the vibes of Shout themselves.
Oh,
that man from Addicted to Quack, the managing editor and writer of Duct Tape. That is right, the best film review of Oregon football on the web footosphere. That would be Hythloday. How's it going, Hythloday?
Woo, 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 woo.
He ain't there. He got so bored that now he's just chilling. So we're gonna put him back in the wings.
I heard him.
Oh, you did? I better write this down. Do you hear him?
I thought I did.
My mic was muted on the hardware.
Oh, no worries. How's it going, Hith?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. You were there. I would love to know.
You were there.
I know you're a real level-headed guy. We were talking about how it was an interesting vibe where in the fourth quarter, it is a one-score game. Yeah, like technically Idaho can win this thing, but due to our defense, their offense, the general talent, it's still kind of like I wasn't full panic mode, even though you can make an argument that if we were to have lost this game, I think there's at least an argument that it would be, you could say it's the worst loss in Oregon football history. I mean, know. What are your thoughts on that, Hythloday? Let's say we lose that game. In my head,
it would be the first and only loss to an FCS team in Oregon Ducks history.
with our hype
sense, yes.
at home, we're the number 3. Like I feel like
I mean, I don't know how you. I'm not interested in evaluating.
Hypotheticals.
Well, sort of disappointment level, like how one would compute that. Doesn't seem like there's analytical agreement on that question. But yeah, it would suck.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
Did you actually answer the question? I'm sorry, but you got me thinking about something.
The question cannot be answered. What's up, Aaron?
All right, great. Good. Great first question. We did.
Yeah, I know.
You have mentioned in the past that when you are at the game, you are watching it kind of differently than whenever you are, like reviewing the tapes, etc. Because it's live in the moment. You're also like in the energy of the crowd. What were like the key differences what were the things you realized once you got back to look at tape that maybe emotional type stuff would have gotten in the way during the live event? Was that said well?
I don't really think that this team calls plays in that manner. I do think that the team, because the team is made up of 18-year-old, kids, feeds off of the crowd's energy, in a way that's real. Like, I mean, that's just unavoidable. They're quasi-professionals. They're not full on. I mean, they're human beings. Even the most dead-eyed pros are human beings, and they feed off fan energy. And what I can also report from being in the building was like, hey, we got up and danced to shout. Like the crowd was full. There weren't people leaving. Like, it was
right.
The stripe out was well executed.
Yeah.
There were murmurs and stuff. There always are. Whenever something, doesn't seem like it's going as well as it should. But whenever there was a good play, there was lots of cheering. Whenever there was, whenever it was third down, everybody was on their feet, shout no. I didn't detect any sort of like fall off in fan energy. I didn't really detect a sort of sense of anxiety that was permeating the building that would then feed down to the team level, that would then infect the team and influence team performance. I don't really think that should be part of the analysis. To me, everything.
But I mean, on a personal level, like when you were at the game watching it and they were kind of biffing constant stuff, and you're like, what the fuck? And then you go back and you watch the tape, and then you're like, oh, here's the answer. So
I was
just wondering, like, what you were feeling between the two.
I mean, sometimes that's hard for me to pick up in real time. Sometimes other times, nah. This was one of the that was very just where I happened to be sitting. From the get-go, it was obvious to me what was going on.
Got you. Great. Okay. Where were you?
I don't want to give where my seats are. The
50-yard second row.
Yeah, there you go.
I had a good enough view that I could see what was going on. And it was just sort of clear. I mean, what I watched during the game, is fairly clear, especially like given the coverage shells that Idaho was running. That's when I'm at the game live, I try to watch the secondary play because a lot of times that's cut off in the broadcast angle, and I know you'll be watching the broadcast angle later. The Idaho started out. Idaho started out trying to take away the run, and then realized they didn't need to, and backed out and played a lot of cover 2.
Yeah.
That was interesting. The major effect that was going on in the game was there's, as there usually are, there's a bunch of stuff going on, all of which sort of compound and complicate each other. 9 out of 10 of them, all but one of them are minor, wouldn't really be worth talking about. It's just there's one of them that's major that is worth talking about and sort of activates the rest of them. The major thing that's worth talking about and activates the rest of them is the offensive line was blocking poorly.
Right. We were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, I mean, you're not imagining it.
I feel like it's been really obvious this last week of like who knows ball even a little bit, or who actually watched the game and wasn't like wasted out of their mind. When it's just like, oh, what was the problem with week 1? Yeah, we had a walk on center and we readjusted the offensive line, and it was their first week. Like that's kind of it's all the O line in my head. Like I'm sure,
yeah. You know? I mean, there's other stuff going on. Like some of the other things that I've seen people talking about. Like it's some of those other things. They're not wrong. It's just that none of them. It's just that those things wouldn't have really mattered. And then on top of that, there's other stuff too. Like for example, like just look, if you look at the box score, or you look at the fundamental stats, Oregon moved the ball even with those offensive line problems, Oregon moved the ball pretty effectively, and then they had dumb stuff happen.
Yes,
like they were in the red zone multiple times. If they had, scored on a couple of those drives, and the scores, instead of whatever it was, if it's like 34. No, everybody would sort of be like, whatever. They had sort of a bit of a clunk or whatever, It's just that, at the last second, when they're about to punch it in, instead they get a strip sack, and it's like, what the hell, or they sort of aggressively go for it, which like I'm still in Lanning's corner on that one. Like that's what he wants to do. That's what he wants to do.
Fucking A, man.
They just get wanged on it. You
get 4th and 1 against an Idaho.
Yeah, exactly. And they get wanged on it. And so now that, the trick play works, which I was in the stadium. I happened to be down the line on that one. That was a forward,
I mean,
it was an illegal trick play. Like not that the illegality of it excuses it. Like it was still a coverage bust, but and you should have been expecting something. Like that's exactly the moment where you go for a wham play like that. But I happened to be the broadcast angle that they then reviewed was like it's a funny angle where it's not clear. I was right down the line. It definitely traveled like a yard forward. Like I was watching.
We know exactly what Hythloday
screaming. Like again, the illegality of it doesn't forgive the coverage breakdown, but it's like it was an illegal trick play. Anyway, and so it's like, Tristan just posted his film review article of it. And it's like, when you look at the defensive side of the ball for Oregon, it's like the sample size of it, like Idaho ran, outside of garbage, the last drive or so was garbage time. Idaho only ran something like 36 meaningful plays. It's basically like nothing but 3 and outs. And it's just, because of because of like that, one instance and, whatever, it's like they have like 2 explosive plays that represent like all of their yardage. Right. And because it's a low scoring game, because Oregon's not punching it in, the score differential looks tighter. It's like
the skill level was obviously different.
Right.
One was working. I like Fortnite references of saying that they were sweating out there.
So it's like, the defensive performance was excellent. There are actually a couple of interesting things that in terms of personnel usage that happened on the defense, which would probably be the major discussion, if not for the, the offensive stuff.
I'm curious about that.
Well, we'll talk about it in a minute. But anyway, back to the offensive line. The thing about the offensive line, and Adam, you brought up people who don't know ball or talking about other stuff like the coverage and the
talking about how Dylan Gabriel is
and exactly, and it's sort of like or him like hitting his hand. It's like I watched him hit his hand. He did, or like, hey, they're not throwing the ball downfield. They weren't. Part of that had to do with the coverage shell. Part of it had to do with they just deliberately weren't throwing the ball downfield. Part of it had to do with they were not. I was hearing Aaron talk. I don't know if he was off air, but I was hearing Aaron talk about how that wasn't the 2023 offense or the offense that he expects to see going forward. Yeah, it wasn't. There was no option plays in it. Actually, that's not true.
Yeah,
there were 2 outside zone run.
It was a total trip, dude.
Plays, but there was 0 RPOs in the entire game. Like,
also,
they did not run the RPO at all. Like, which was probably a decision, right? Like, there was probably like, let's just see, like, watch all of their run plays. They're all straight handoffs, which, like, I highly doubt that's like Will Stein had a light bulb go off over his head where he's like, I'm sick of the option. This is dumb. That's because it's Idaho and they're going to, probably do something different going forward. It was probably something like, I can't know this for certain, but it was probably something like an experiment. It was probably like, let's see if
that's what it looked like.
Just, do this straight up. Let's say if we can just run the ball, straight without getting an advantage in the box by eliminating a defender with the option. Or let's see if we can just pass the ball without eliminating a defender with the RPO. Yeah.
I am curious about Noah Whittington versus Jordan James stats, because I have rose-tinted glasses when it comes to Jordan James. I love that man. It felt like Whittington was getting more time, more plays. And I thought that's what it felt like to me. But I'm also like, I think Jordan James should be running every single play, so I don't know.
Give me a second. I can just look at it.
We got a real 1A, 1B
underutilized. It was a weird game to me. Here's what it is. I'm so used to playing the stupid video game that the way I play the video game, I think, is very much the way they play with the play action type stuff. Option, whatever.
Whittington got 10 meaningful carries. 5 were successful, 5 were unsuccessful. James got 16 meaningful carries. Hold on 1 second.
Okay, 16. Not bad.
I think again,
of which
you're used to seeing James very successfully run too, Aaron.
Oops,
I think
one of those was screen pass.
So that was dope.
15 meaningful run plays, of which, let's see, 4 were failures and the rest were successes. 11 were successes. The issue was that very few of them were they running through clean holes, and so it's a matter of like, breaking stuff.
Limp Bizkit.
That's the issue, and here's the major thing. Here's the seriously, like, we need to sit down and talk about this issue. Is that it's not Charlie Pickard. Like, it's really not. Like, what we had talked about is that, they've got an injury situation where Yulee or maybe Bedford, who might have been their right guard, are hurt. And so the guy who presumably was going to be their center, the guy who was backing up Jackson Powers Johnson at center, and who had been rotating and playing guard last year, who was Iapani Laulaulu, who was a freshman, had, the lowest grades on the team last year, but he was a freshman. So it was like, hey, they believe in this kid, and, he'll improve over the offseason. They're giving him a ton of reps, cool. So he was probably going to be the center, but then they have they got to replace the right guard. And the guy they probably, had to replace the right guard is hurt. And so what they do is as we discussed, one of the two scenarios was they bring in their practice squad snapping specialist, Charlie Pickard, to snap the ball, and they move Laulaulu over and have him play right guard. So here's what the grades are. There's a couple things to talk about. On the left side of the line, Connerly and Harper have a little worse grades than they had by the end of last year. It's not super concerning. It's sort of a little rust. And it's the same thing that happened when they played Portland State to open the year in 2023. It's sort of just off-season stuff, they just sort of need to bang the rust off. Although, frankly, like, I sort of would have expected them to be ready to go. But, kind of whatever. It's just that Portland State was a way worse team. I tried to point this out in my article about Idaho, is that, like, Portland State was had a terrible defense and they were losing everybody off of their defensive line, whereas Idaho had a really good defense and they literally brought everybody back. They brought back, 4 dudes in their defensive tackle rotation and 4 dudes in their defensive end rotation, including a dude, James Newby, who I literally believe is going to get drafted. Like his sack, and he's the guy who got like 2 sacks, including the strip sack that robbed Oregon of the touchdown. Like I was, nobody read my Idaho preview article, but I was like circling and with like big red flags. Like
I did after the game.
Yeah. And I was like, guys. So anyway, it was the kind of thing where I was like, look, if Oregon's offensive line is like taking a nap, Idaho's defensive front is going to be, real trouble because they bring back everybody on this defense. And then that's exactly what happened. I was like,
and it's their Super Bowl. Like they know what they can win if they win this. Yeah.
So anyway, so a little bit there, but like I can sort of chalk that up to rust. Pickard's not the problem. Pickard's grades are basically identical to Connerly and Harper's. The problem is Laulaulu's grades are basically the same as when he was a freshman, which are like, this is when he was supposed to get better. And it's one game. You shouldn't overreact to one game, but like they're still at like, 18. What's the number Tristan had in his article? Like they're still bad. Like they're 23.38% is what Tristan calculated, which is, I can have it on my sheet too. Yeah, 23.38%. Yeah, bad. Like that's really bad. That's it's just crazy. And it was what I was seeing in the stadium too. Is just like those are throwing in a true freshman, who's never played before numbers. And like that was supposed to get, that was what was supposed to be the level up over the offseason, because that's what you see. And then the other really concerning thing was Johnny Cornelius, who is at 18.18%. Like the Oregon standard is 10%. So, the guys on the left side of the line, Connerly was about 9, except that last year he had gotten under 8. So it's like a little worse than last year, but he was still the Oregon standard. Harper was at 14. Last year he was about 9. So like it's worse, but I can chalk that up to rust. Pickard was at 13, which again, not the Oregon standard, but he's not the problem, right? It's Laulu at 23 and Cornelius at 18. Those are like, that's Pac-12 offensive linemen. That's bad. That's like why Pac-12 teams don't go anywhere, because their offensive lines can't perform bad. And it's just like, I am not accustomed to seeing that out of Oregon offensive linemen. Laulaulu, because I thought he was going to level up. And Cornelius is actually run blocking kind of that stankily at the beginning of last year. And I was trying to tell people, like, this is the problem with transfer offensive linemen, is that they take some time in. Why you don't want to play transfer offensive linemen right away is that they take some time to gel. But what I sort of reassure people is that he had gotten better by the end of last year, like that acclimation process had taken place. And I was sort of like, well, he's not, what I tell people, Adam, you'll recall this from all the conversations we have with folks, is like once a transfer has been in place at his new school for a year, he stops being a transfer guy. Like the transfer effect wears off, right?
I was about to ask if this was the same kid that we were talking about having the 2 bumps.
The what?
Oh, you were talking about the transfer bump,
quarterback.
And then
I think you're talking about our quarterback.
Is that who we were speaking about? Okay, I was trying to remember.
Quarterbacks often improve with transfers. Offensive, and there's this phenomenon that I'm referring to. I don't really understand theoretically why this is, but it's extremely persistent in the data. I mean, it's universal.
Interesting.
Data, where transfer offensive linemen always, and when I say always, I mean always, get worse when they go to the new school for their first year.
They're big softies. They're mama boys.
Well,
they're scared. New town. Further away from their family.
Learning is what I would say.
They have to. They have to.
I think it probably. I'm guessing here because I don't have a theoretical understanding why this is. It's purely from empirical analysis, but I guess is that it has to do with cohesion with the rest of the line. And so when you take them out of their old environs and put them into a new environs, that like that's what, they lose that cohesion, and that's what causes the dip in their performance. But that after a year of being in the new environs, that they acclimate to it, and that negative effect wears off. Well, the thing that's very concerning about this one game, and you don't want to take away too much from one game, but the thing that's very concerning about Cornelius's performance is that he was performing in this game like he was still a first-year transfer, not a second-year transfer. So both of those things, the Laulu still performing like he's a freshman and Cornelius still performing like he's a transfer, both of those things look like they got crappy coaching. And like, again, I don't want to take too much from one game. This is the kind of thing where maybe it was
especially
just
this game.
Yeah, maybe this was just the rust effect and it was sort of exacerbated on the right side because I don't know, maybe that's where Idaho was focusing. I don't know. Like, you don't want to over extrapolate. I'm going to keep my eye on the situation. If this isn't something that gets fixed by, in relatively short order, like I'll probably write an article about this in the bye week after the non-con is over, because it goes, Idaho, Boise State, Oregon State bye week, then UCLA, Michigan State, Ohio State. I'm probably going to write an article in the bye week if I don't see significant improvement from Laulu and Cornelius that's about Coach Terry and his job security.
Yeah. If we lose to Boise State or Oregon State, I'll never.
I mean, it's not about the loss. Wins
for me, it is. For me,
it's not about analytics. Like, I do fundamentals. I do the underlying analytics, like the underlying analytics about those two guys' performance, like what it suggests. And again, you do not over extrapolate from a single game, but what it suggests is that they did not get the freshman to sophomore and the transfer to no longer a transfer, off-season improvement, which is customary from, what you expect from competent coaching.
I get you. Let's get into any positives you want to take from the defense, because we do have a whole 18 team slate to get through. Aaron, what do you want to say?
It's just a real quick question. Hythloday, please be also quick with the answer.
All right.
Zooming out, looking at the offense as a whole, going forward, do you think the style of play that we did that was so different to my brain, do you think that's something they're going to continue to do going forward? Or do you think they were just doing it for this game to try out some stuff?
I think that they were. I definitely do not.
It's all hypothetical. Yeah.
I definitely do not think that they are like, let's change the style of why we ran the number one offense last year. Let's do something different. That would be very stupid.
Right.
Like I cannot imagine they want to do that. I expect that for one reason or another, my guess, I'm just guessing, but I think the most likely thing is they were just running an experiment to see, let's see if we can do this straight. Let's see if we can just do like all the handoffs are straight handoffs, all the pass plays. And it should be noted that increases the degree of difficulty for the offensive line, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it means you're not eliminating a defender, on the run plays. It means that they're blocking 6 guys, not 5, or 5 guys, not 4, whatever, it means that they've got a harder job. It's just that they were supposed to be able to handle the harder job because it's an FCS team.
But now we know.
Well, yeah, they have that data.
We answered a question, so that's good.
You can look at it that way. Certainly.
Yeah, it's a positive.
Definitely, I'll clean that up a bit and just say, look, you definitely got the information that this offense is not scheme independent. They are, in fact, scheme dependent. They are dependent on, like, Will Stein needs to do his job, which, like, look, I watched a bunch of Ohio State tape. I've actually watched literally every game that Ryan Day has coached at Ohio State, going back more than 5 years, because he coached one in like 2018. And like most of the games, almost every one, with like maybe 10 games worth of exceptions, that entire coaching staff could go play golf during the game. Like a golden retriever could randomly pick plays with his nose on the play sheet, and Ohio State would run the opposing team out the stadium because the talent advantage and the execution advantage was just so great over the opponent. And like it does not appear that Oregon, with the state of its offensive line, can do that right now. Like Will Stein needs to do his job. Like he needs to actually call plays. Like the scheme is relevant.
I think it's very clear. Like they got caught with their pants on the ground a little bit in Idaho. Like they were hoping to coast a little bit. They did get the win, and
which was a shoe in though.
I think the Boise State game is going to tell us a lot more, especially with that win.
I think Idaho's defense is probably better than Boise State's defense, to be honest with you.
I mean, I think we all will be rooting for Idaho to go 11-1. And so
they were.
Oh yeah,
they lost their quarterback.
Yeah,
Jack Lane, who's a local kid, by the way. Yeah, they lost. The reason they had Wagner come in and play those last couple of plays, Lane got hurt on that sack.
No,
that blows.
Because I don't know how long he's going to be out, but he's going to be out for a couple of games.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, he's a local kid. There's actually a bunch of local, Lane is from Lake Oswego, and I think Wagner's from Tualatin. Like there's a bunch of Oregon kids on that Idaho team.
Nice. Any nice defensive things you'd like to say before we transition over?
The defense played very, very well. There were a couple of surprises. Contrary to everything that we've been saying, but maybe expected from looking at their body types, Caldwell started out at nose and Harmon started out at DT, although that flipped later in the game. Okay. It was actually fairly confined rotation on the defensive line. Everybody who we'd been speculating about as the lighter end spot just wound up playing OLB. So they basically just had Birch playing the entire game at the big end spot. Like no one came in and played. We have no idea who's behind Birch at Birch's spot. Just it was Birch the whole time. But we did see everybody at OLB. We saw Uiagalelei, Tuioti, Winston, Purchase Moore. We did not see much of Bossa or Jacobs at inside linebacker. I don't know. Like Bossa, I think got hurt. Jacobs, I'm not sure. It was like a personnel issue, but he didn't seem to be hurt. They were just using him only on specialty plays. Instead, we saw a ton of Betcher and Jacobs and Jackson, which
isn't that cool?
I don't think it's cool.
I thought they all did so good.
It's cool for Betcher.
Tyshim Johnson, I don't understand why. I think that was maybe disciplinary, but there was some we didn't see him. Instead, we saw Turner. Playing free safety. Basically, everybody else was who I was expecting to see. And then the corners were Manning and Muhammad were the starters, but then Reed cycled in quite a bit. And they did, in fact, bring back the dime package. We actually saw the dime package pretty substantially, which is what I've been expecting to see. But yeah, a lot more play for Tyler Turner than I was expecting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who knows? The defense was a pleasure to watch. I mean, really, the only one that got me angry was that allowing that final drive in the fourth quarter, that scoring drive, that obviously that ramped up the pressure. But in week one, when the offense is giving you nothing, and one was a trick play, and you allowed 14 points, hey, that overall, that's actually pretty dang good. I don't know. So I'll try to forget about this game forever, besides kind of surprising entertainment week one.
Do we have an injury report for Bossa? Do we know what's going on there?
They're kind of keeping tight-lipped, but it seems like he's going to be good to go.
They don't talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Seems like
he is good. Well, that's kind of all I meant. Is he going to be in the game next week? It's an ankle issue.
We don't really know, but they want him to be. I'll tell you that. They'd like for him to be, I'm sure.
I mean, we run these kids rugged.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, it'll be interesting. I don't, it's not fully like they had. They're definitely keeping things simple against Idaho. I doubt they were like, Dylan Gabriel, we only want you to check down. I doubt it was fully that, but we'll see what the philosophy kind of changes.
That little fingy incident that he had.
dude,
don't
Aaron,
ever do that again, brother.
You weren't around as a Duck fan, but there was a season where like week 2, our it's kind of the same thing. We had some hype. Our transfer quarterback came in, broke his finger on his throwing hand week 2 during a game. It screwed
against
up
an
a lot of
FCS
things.
team.
Against
yeah. God.
Oh, that's right, because it was against Eastern Washington, against his former team, because of a dirty hit too, by his former teammate, and it was something. I love the player though; he's a great player. Let us get into this next segment, but first,
finally, I know you've been waiting.
All right, and now a fan favorite segment, or at least my favorite segment, because we get to talk about all the teams in this terrible conference we joined. That is, well, actually, first of all, let us just praise 24-14, number 3. That's right. The new 25, top 25 hasn't come out. I doubt we're going to be at number 3. They'll probably forgive. I don't think we're plummeted out or anything. But if I weren't a Duck fan, I probably would lower us a little bit.
Solid 5. Yeah. We're solid 5,
sure.
6.
Whatever. 24-14, we beat the Idaho Vandals. But now we go into our next segment. That is
Bottom 11.
That is right. Is the bottom 11. Because we are going to pick
plus
the
7.
big bottom is what we're going to be calling it for the rest of the season. Let's start with the most important team here. And at the end here, I'll reveal the results of how our last week's picks went. But right now we got number 3, Oregon versus Boise State. Aaron, I don't want to tell you too much. As always, we're starting with you, so you have a fresh slate.
Whoa, I'm so confused. Are we doing the picks, or are we doing bottom 11, or are they now the same thing?
Basically the same thing. It's we're going to pick the big
wow.
bottom. Aaron
threw me out. Okay, yeah. Let's go with
this is number 3, Oregon versus Boise State. I will tell you this. We have played this team 3 times. In fact, the 3rd time you have actually seen the game. That was Mario Cristobal's first game in that bowl game. I think it was the
I was real checked
Vegas
out
Bowl?
On that one though. I tell you what.
Las Vegas Bowl. That's right. Well, you had takes at the time, but we're 0-3 against Boise State, which isn't a state, by the way. Who do you got? Oregon versus Boise State.
Oh, Oregon all day long. Duh. Undefeated season.
Me too. I am also going with Oregon. I think we're going to have a lot. And I think Vegas even, like we have a 3-touchdown favorite over them right now. Yeah. I think many people are expecting that was a week 1 thing. I mean, offensive line problems, if you don't fix them. This is the metaphor I put out there, Aaron. This is like you're in a plane. You're about to go on like a magical journey. I'm on a plane. You got it. A beautiful magical journey. You're starting a vacation. You're excited. You look out the window. The wing is gone. The wing is straight up gone. And the nice thing is, you know what the problem is. And if you fix the wing, you're good to go. If you don't, you're not going anywhere. And that is where I think we are with the offensive line right now. We just need to play better. And I think we will for a million reasons. I think we're beating Boise State. And if we don't, I'm furious.
But see, Adam, to your analogy, the most important part of that is that we know how to fix wings. So
I hope so.
It should be fine.
If not, we should fire the guy whose job it is to fix the wing and make sure it's good. I
thought this was about Boise. Oh, Boise.
Oh, Boise. I'm going to hit it with the Z. I should just, out of hatred, always be like Boise. Because I know they hate it more than anything. Hythloday, do you think Boise State has it in them to upset us? They have a great running back, that's for sure. He like tied their record for 6 touchdowns or most touchdowns in a game or something like that. It's pretty amazing.
Wow. He's definitely their best weapon. He's very, very difficult to break down. Like he's the full package back. Like he's extremely difficult to break down. He knows how to improvise. Like when the hole's not there, he cuts and runs somewhere different, and then he can outrun the defense. So he's got everything. He's a Bucky Irving level back. The 6 touchdown thing is he punched
because of the team they played.
Well, yes, Georgia Southern, is a terrible defense. and a number of those were just, hey, it's on the 1 yard line. They handed the ball to him. But I mean, he broke off 2 like 75-yard runs. I mean, they also have a freshman they were handing the ball to. I think his name's Gaines, who's also pretty good. They just have a good offensive line. They brought back, I think, 4 of their 5 starters, or actually they had to change up one of their guards, something like that. And it's, the offensive line doesn't really make a lot of mistakes. It's not fantastic or anything, but like they don't make a lot of mistakes. But Jonty just, he supercharges it because he's just a really good back. You really have to be on it. Their quarterbacks, he was the backup last year. He wasn't, he's not a goofball or anything, but he's certainly not the best quarterback I've ever seen. They got a transfer from Indiana, Cam Camper, who, I watched a bunch of Indiana film. I always liked Cam Camper. I actually think he's actually a pretty good receiver. I guess I'll put it this way. The passing game's not really a threat unless you put like all of your eggs into the stop the run game basket, in which case, the quarterback's good enough and Camper is good enough. And then they had like one other good returning receiver that they didn't use at all last week, which I don't understand what that situation is about. Maybe if we have a Boise State podcast, I can ask that question. So it's like, I don't like, and in fact, there's actually a couple of points during the game where I was like, I think that, like, they're overly focused on Jonty. It's like they go to Jonty like they too much, like the Heisman campaign thing. I don't know, or just like they know that he's their best weapon. Whereas I think if the offense were more multidimensional, like it would be a bigger threat. But anyway, like, yeah, it's like first and foremost, you got to stop that guy. And then if you do, like, if Oregon's defense is what Oregon's defense should be, then they should be able to stop that run, contain that guy. And then the rest of their offense isn't really scary. It's just that, if you go overboard, right? Like if you go nuts trying to stop him and you leave everything else open, then yeah, the rest of it's good enough to make you pay for it. So yeah, that, and then like, I don't really think their defense is very good at all. Yeah.
Cool.
But
so
like,
I'm guessing you got
Oregon's offense is any good. But like, I don't know. I wouldn't take Oregon in points. Like, I wouldn't take that until I see some real progress on the offensive line.
I agree. I mean, who knows? Maybe we played the better Idaho team. No, that's what everyone wants to believe anyways. I hate Boise State. I hate losing to them. And I, again, will never forgive Dan Lanning if we lose this freaking game. That's where I'm at. Okay. Illinois versus Eastern Illinois University, I do believe. Illinois won 45-0. I will say this. I don't know why. I would have to listen to last week's episode, which I'm not going to do. I chose Eastern Illinois University, and I don't know why.
I'm pretty sure this might have been the one where you went, you know what, I'm going to mix it up, because I kept picking ones that you wanted to pick.
You were mad at Aaron for not being a wild man, so you decided to do it.
Yeah. Well, that was idiotic.
It was.
Yeah, looking back at it, it really was. I even like Illinois, so I don't know what I was doing. But yeah, you both got it right, just so you know. Most of America did.
Oh, of course.
Versus the number 22 Kansas Jayhawks. That is right. This should be pretty exciting, honestly, especially for Illinois, who's gotten, had a good showing in week 1, looking to prove themselves. It'd be pretty fun if our new conference here beat an SEC team like they did last week.
I think
at least once
in the SEC.
Oh, wait. Yeah, they're Big 12. What am I talking about? That was just a non sequitur. I was just talking randomly.
It would be fun if they did.
Yeah. Kansas. I always forget Kansas. They seem like but no, Kansas, obviously Big 12. Number 22 ranked here. I chose this old retro logo with these fun shoes. What do you think, Aaron?
You definitely shouldn't choose the retro logo for Illinois. because it's got an Indian chief on it.
Nope. Yeah, there's a couple of those. Even though I've said this last week, the artwork for those, even though you shouldn't use them, is actually, they put a lot of work.
This is like Birth of the Nation stuff. It's like, cinematographically, this is amazing.
Yeah, no. You don't understand. We have to study this. It's perfect. Yeah. What do you want? What do you want?
What town is Kansas in? Are they in Lawrence?
They are in Lawrence, Kansas.
I mean, Lawrence rips, man. I am gonna have to say I want Kansas to take this one.
You want Kansas and you're going with Kansas.
Yeah, I am. Because I love, Lawrence used to have a badass music scene. They might still. I really don't know, but there was a whole time period where Lawrence was kind of like a mecca for.
They probably do. Well, I'm going to go with a different cultural mecca. I'm going with Illinois. Mainly
the
because
state?
I'm back in the big. I'm back in the big.
Sure.
That's what I'm doing. I've found myself this last week because, completely different experience. I'm used to being like, I'm actively not going to watch Big Ten football because I want to dedicate myself to Pac-12. To suddenly I'm watching only Big Ten football, and I found myself rooting for all the teams that traditionally suck in the Big Ten. Like Illinois, Indiana, Rutgers. Those were the teams I were going hard for. I was kind of wanting Michigan, Ohio State, all of them to lose, even Michigan State. Like, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at right now with my Big Ten fandom. Hythloday, who do you got in this one?
Kansas.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Wow. I mean,
one's ranked, one's not.
I mean, it was such a good, I feel like I remember it being a college scene, and the energy is so badass there that I just wouldn't be surprised if they have good football.
They're a basketball school mainly, but yeah.
That makes a ton of sense.
I've been to both towns. They're both lovely college towns. Very interesting architecture, actually. Both of them. They both have to deal with like brutal Midwest winters, and so they have substantial like underground architecture. Like you can go from the dorms to classes in pajamas with these underground tunnels, which are both interesting. Like the schools have a lot in common in that way. Yeah.
What a trip!
That's cool. Maybe we'll add Kansas.
That's school.
There you go. On to the next one. So Indiana versus FIU. That's right. Mario Cristobal's stomping grounds, FIU. Well, Indiana, they did pretty well. 31-7. Compared to what we're coming off, 31-7. Why not? Looks good to me. The dream of 9-win Indiana is still there. And I think we all chose Indiana as well. Now they play versus Western Illinois. That's all I know.
That's what that is.
That's it.
Oh, that was the last game. This is the next game. Western Illinois.
Yes.
Indiana versus Western Illinois. It's a cool looking bulldog, I tell you that. Although it's kind of like the ripoff of the Georgia Bulldog, right? With just different colors.
Well, all these bulldogs look the same.
They're all the same.
They're all the same to me.
But I have to say, I feel like Western Illinois is going to win this game. Is that it?
Hythloday, are you sure? I mean, Hythloday. Aaron, are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. You're a fool. I'm going with Indiana because it's the sure thing. Sure thing, Indiana. Hythloday, you rolling with Aaron, I assume, with the upset?
No, I'm taking Indiana.
Oh, interesting. Indiana, people think Indiana's good, huh?
Well, they're better than an FCS team.
Yeah.
Oh, Western Illinois is FCS?
Yeah.
But here's that.
They're one of the worst. They're one of the worst FCS teams.
That's great. That's great.
Well,
I'm rooting for them. I love them.
If it's an upset, then you're going to look like a genius. So
fudge it. Why not?
Number 25, Iowa versus Illinois State ended up 40-0, but that score does not tell the struggles of the first half. But you all start 0-0. It was week one. Maybe you all start take up. There's a lot of Big Ten teams that struggled a little more than the scores would indicate. But Iowa, they're still Iowing. They're doing their thing. 40-0. The next game they play here is versus Iowa State. So really, I mean, it is their rival. This is a big one.
Fun.
Another Big 12 versus Big 10. I mean, Iowa is ranked as of, I'm sure they'll still be ranked when the official new rankings come out. Who do you got, Aaron? These teams hate each other.
They sure do, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at them. They're the same species almost.
Birds. Kind of. Well, they're like the cyclones, but I guess they have this bird. I'm a little confused.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They both got birds.
Yeah. We're looking at birds right now. I figured, I'm
going Iowa.
You go in Iowa?
Yeah. State? Iowa feels right. Iowa.
Okay, you're going with Iowa.
Lock it in.
I also am backing so their mascot is Cy the Cardinal. I kind of think they should go with, maybe it'd be insensitive, maybe they can be called a cyclone, but like from where I'm from, Medford, Oregon, I don't know why, but we were called the Black Tornadoes, and we had a mascot that was a tornado. And it was just like weird little, like tornado shape, and then he had one leg sticking out. I think they should go with that since they're cyclones, but maybe since there's actual tornadoes and stuff hitting the state, maybe it's too close to home. I don't know. All that being said, I'm also going with Iowa. I'm back in the big. Hythloday, Iowa State versus Iowa. Who you got?
Iowa. Iowa always wins. They're like 14-6 in the last 20 years.
They do. That's got to be a really
this rivalry.
Yeah, it's something crazy. Yeah.
Wow. How long have they been? Is that the total?
Forever.
That's the grand total.
No, since like 2003.
I'll look it up for you.
Oh my God, we're so old, everybody.
Oh yeah. Let's see. So yeah. So they have been playing. The first time they ever played was in 1894, which is the first year the Ducks had a football team.
That's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm. Right now it is 47-23 in favor of Iowa, and just the streak in general. Yeah,
history don't lie.
They've dominated.
I think the concerning thing was that Caden McNamara looked like an actual quarterback. I mean, it was against an FCS team, but he didn't I've watched him in previous years. He was injured, but I watched him at Michigan with much better tools, and he did not look nearly as good as he did. And it's just thrown against air, he looked terrible. And he looked like a real quarterback, and it was bizarre because we were getting camp reports from Iowa in which he just looked garbage in camp. So I don't know, man. It might have been one game thing, or maybe they were lying in the camp reports, or beats me. But I don't know. It's worth keeping an eye on.
Iowa with offense is scary. That is a scary idea. Let's get on the next one. Maryland. I love this little guy. I love the Terrapins. I love him,
dude.
Versus UConn, they won 50-7. Hell yeah, baby! I'm all on that train. I love them. Maryland versus Michigan State. Oh. That's right. We got an actual Big Ten game. Big Ten matchup here. Michigan. Well, I won't tell you anything, Aaron. I'll tell you Michigan State won. I'll tell you that much at least.
Sure, they did. Of course they did.
But it was closer. That this was the one that.
No. You're talking too much.
Okay.
I'm coming into from the universe. I can't be trifled with human affairs.
Okay.
This one's going to the Terrapins. Booyah.
Okay. So Aaron, basically a bunch of Oregon State, not like the whole team, but I mean the coach, the quarterback, many people.
It's actually not as many, not really.
Yeah.
It was the coach, the quarterback's coach, the offensive line coach, a couple other staff members, and then the backup QB, a tight end, and one offensive lineman. There's 3 players and I think 4 coaches. That's it.
So not overall, but
this wasn't like the Indiana, James Madison transplant, like the Colorado, Jackson State transplant. Not at all.
Yeah. So they got Oregon State all over them, basically. Yeah, not that many, but Jonathan Smith's over there. They did look pretty freaking rough. Was it Western Michigan, if I do remember correctly, or was that
Wisconsin? No, it was FAU.
That's right, FAU. Which Atlantic. If FAU had any semblance of an offense and a quarterback, could have maybe made it something, but
like the quarterback for FAU was left-handed, and like the whole time I kept thinking this was a Princess Bride thing, and at any point he was just going to start, hi, I'm not left-handed, and just start throwing with his right hand and kill him. Like.
Couldn't have been worse. Yeah. It was a pretty rough showing for Michigan State. So for that reason, I'm going with my Terps, Maryland. Hith, who you got?
Yeah, I got Maryland. My prediction from the get-go and for all season long is just going to be Michigan's not ready to play or compete at all in 2024, and that Maryland is. The only thing that was surprising at all about Maryland, you should have talked about Maryland because there's two different conference teams. Maryland's game last week. I think it was an FCS team, right?
Maryland, I got it here. They were
it was UConn, which might as well be an FCS team. I mean, they killed them like it was an FCS team.
Yeah.
The thing that was surprising about Maryland was that the quarterback was Billy Edwards, who was their backup all year to Talia Tagovailoa. But both, if you recall, both me and our guest on the podcast, who the Maryland writer, we were both convinced it was going to be the North Carolina State transfer because we didn't think that Billy Edwards could throw the ball at all in the times that we saw him, and that the North Carolina State transfer at least had some tape that indicated that he was a talented guy, and that basically because he had all this eligibility left and that he had shut down his, that guy was the quarterback of the future and they were going to roll with him. And then he basically played Edwards started the game. The Morris, the North Carolina State transfer, came in and played one series, and then you didn't see him for the rest of the game. They just rolled with Edwards, and it was and Edwards. I mean, he was playing against UConn, which is a joke team, but everything else about Maryland that we talked about, came true. It was just the quarterback was a surprise, and North Carolina State fans were laughing because they think that Morris is a mercenary, and that he's never going to play. And I don't know, maybe there's egg on our faces now, but Edwards, I don't know. It's hard to assess him on one game against a bad team. So, it'd be interesting going forward. And Michigan State's probably a bad team. So again, it'll be interesting when we get more real data. But if Edwards has grown up and is a good quarterback now, really look out for Maryland, because they've got all the other components. Actually, and because they actually have pretty good wide receivers, actually really good wide receivers, and they might have pretty good defense, pretty good secondary, and they have more, they have more athletic talent throughout their team than most Big Ten teams too. They're not made up of farm boys. So seriously, look out for Maryland.
Hell yeah. Trey Moore.
I love it. They're my favorite team besides us, of course. They're our sister team, right? They're the ones that are the East Coast.
Yeah, they're the East Coast Pac-12 team.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that actually is good. I love it. Number 9, Michigan versus Fresno State. This was also a bit of a struggle. I did not watch much of this game because if I remember correctly, I think it was during the Duck game, or maybe not. I forget, but it was closer than you'd think against Fresno State, who's coming up, trying to kind of rebuild. 30-10 in the end, though. Michigan being Michigan. We'll see. I mean, obviously they're replacing some good talent, and and I just hope that their national championship isn't vacated from last season, because I don't need the Huskies claiming another one. Number 9, Michigan versus number 4, Texas.
Dang.
This is a big one. This is a big
tough one. You got to give me them horns, baby. I'm going Longhorns.
Ooh.
I got to do it.
Look at Mr. Matthew McConaughey, Homer over here. I get what you mean, though. Texas, I didn't watch any of their game, not a single minute, but they just blew out their competition.
I mean...
I'm with you, Aaron. I think there's more to back with Texas.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of
they're going to be
on
the road. They're going to be on the road. That's going to be tough. But why not? Old 7-win Sarkisian, I think he's getting a second win right here. Texas versus Michigan. You got any thoughts on Michigan here? Did you watch much of the game, Hith?
Yes. Just about everything that I wrote and predicted and talked about for Michigan, wound up being true. The one surprise was the quarterback they wound up going with Davis Warren. But as you may recall, with our guest, we talked about we didn't really like any of their options. We thought it was going to come down to Alex Orji, the talented freshman, but who doesn't have an arm, or Jack Tuttle, the old man that nobody allows to play quarterback, who now in year 8 of being a QB, still no one allows him to be a quarterback. So they go with Davis Warren, who's stat line wasn't great, 118 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He and maybe more to the point, offensive line did not offer him great protection. No surprise there. And they don't have any wide receivers, which is exactly what I wrote. They pretty much everything was going to the one returning dude who was decent, who's Colson Loveland. And I predicted the running back room exactly correctly, that they would go with Mullings, who was, by far their most effective back, but who was super underutilized. He got pigeonholed as a short yardage specialist because of his 2022 season. I was way ahead of everybody else in pointing out that his 2023 season indicated that he was by far the most effective. He was not just a short yardage back. He was way more effective. And sure enough, they wound up giving him the ball way more than Donovan Edwards. And he was way more effective than Donovan Edwards, because Donovan Edwards was not an effective back in 2023 when their offensive line wasn't as good as their previous Joe Moore Ward winning offensive line. Same thing is true in 2024, and Donovan Edwards, not getting the ball. It's Mullings. So everything about their offense was exactly the way that I predicted, except they went with a different quarterback, which even that was sort of shadow predicted by their screwy quarterback room. They had JJ McCarthy. He was the one bright spot in 9 years. And then the defense was very good, was why they won the game against Fresno. If Michigan has a shot at all against Texas, which is a complete team, and when I say complete team, I just mean that, they're good at everything. Not assessing, their level of eliteness at any particular question, just that they don't have any obvious vulnerabilities. It's going to have to be, winning the game 10-7, just winning totally through defense in a grinded out, kind of way, which it's just not. That's just not a high stakes proposition. You just bet on the team that's a complete team over the team that's not a complete team. So give me Texas. You
heard that, listener. Bet on Texas, says it.
Booyah!
Okay. On the next one, Michigan State versus FAU. I guess I should have put this earlier. We know who they're playing. We already chose this. 16-10. FAU, really a lot of that was a tough game to watch. They bad. Minnesota versus UNC. The Minnesota Gophers versus the UNC Tar Heels.
This was the thriller of the weekend.
Really?
At least it was close. But no, he's making fun of how terrible these teams were, particularly on offense. And that UNC unfortunately had their veteran quarterback, his dad was in the stands. They were ready to go. He was injured, and I think is seriously injured. Yeah, out for the season. So that was a bummer. Damn. And watching the offenses it was rough.
I picked UNC though, right?
Actually, I got it written somewhere, not on me right now. I think I can look it up. I don't think you did. I think it was me and Hythloday picked UNC. I think you picked Minnesota. That's what I want to say. Anyway,
I'm looking at that squirrel, just being I don't trust
how
this
could
squirrel.
You go against? Oh, you don't trust him? I think you like him.
Yeah, I don't like him today.
Yeah, well,
that score.
Just like the last one. So UNC, they're called the Tar Heels. They got a ram as their mascot, though. Now we're going against Minnesota versus Rhode Island, I believe. Chip Kelly's old stomping grounds.
No, that's New Hampshire. Rhode Island is where Johnny Cornelius is from.
I swear, every single time I get that one wrong.
Also,
Johnny Cornelius' old stomping grounds, the Rams. That is right. Minnesota versus the Rhode Island Rams now.
Rhode Island Rams. I mean, it seems like a garbage team to me, but Minnesota seems to be a garbage team, right?
Rhode Island,
I gotta back them up.
And the Gophers are winless.
Yeah. So there's
Rhode Island is undefeated.
Yeah.
They've won their one game.
Yes.
You know what? If I die here, then this is where I die. But I'm sticking with Minnesota and this weird little creature. Maybe the whole season.
Okay.
I just like. He's hideous. I like him.
I mean, I chose a weird one. There's usually cuter little logos than that. But you're doing the smart thing. Rams are lower level. Yeah. You're choosing the clear favorite. Minnesota. I thought we were gonna get you there, but no. You going with the Rams, Hith?
No, give me Minnesota. Although it doesn't make me real comfortable.
Yeah,
because I mean, Brosmer just like, I was one of the things we talked about is, whenever a guy is transitioning up a level, he's a question mark. And Brosmer's passer rating was pretty average, and then you watched him throw, and you're just like, this guy can't throw. Like. I just don't. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be. And I kind of don't think that this is like, this team's just kind of gross. Like, I mean, that's what I wrote about over the offseason was just like, there's just no real talent on this team. Like, they loaded up on running backs. That's if they have talent anywhere, it's they loaded up on running backs, and their offensive line's not half bad. So they're going to try to run at everybody, but like their quarterback's not great. They don't really have receiver talent, and their defense just isn't. I mean, it was a low scoring game because UNC had obviously offensive problems, but like that's it. Their defense isn't really, at no position is their defense to excel. So like, I'm not really predicting a great season for Minnesota, and it's just the fact that they're playing an FCS team is the reason that I'm picking them here.
That week 1 loss was also tough too, because I don't know why, but I was really feeling for the home crowd where it's just like, it's week 1, you're gonna go watch Minnesota, you still believe in this team, and it was close enough where it gave them hope. But oh man, it'd be tough to be a fan of that team. Nebraska, which is, I'm glad we didn't hire PJ Fleck. Nebraska versus UTEP.
Yeah,
they beat UTEP 40-7. I know your sister went there. Is that true?
No.
Am I crazy? Oh, didn't you have some relation to UTEP?
No, I'm kidding. It was my sister.
You got me. But now this is a game: Nebraska versus Colorado.
Oh boy,
Colorado.
Where did Colorado end up at?
They're back in the Big 12. That's where
they're back in the Big 12.
Now they're back. Nebraska used to be in the Big 12 too. This is why they are rivals. They are hated rival. Like, they hate each other. Colorado has had the better between the two as of late.
And Dion is still there?
Oh yeah, Dion and Shadur and Shiloh and Travis Hunter. I'll tell you this much at least, Aaron. In week 1, this Colorado team looked exactly like the Colorado team of last year. The good.
Interesting. You know what? I'm gonna have to go with that. With the back pocket corn boy there. I gotta go Nebraska on this one.
Back pocket corn boy going with the bug eaters. I mean, I didn't watch any of the Nebraska game, but this is more of what I want to happen.
Like,
I'm off the Dion train. I don't know.
But my only question is he actually a good coach? Can he actually coach this team?
I mean, in college football, I would say no, he's not a very good coach. If you're taking into play like roster management and such. Sure. And not being an asshole to press. Yeah, I would. I'm going with Nebraska because this is probably just back in the big, wanting Colorado to lose. And I like little things like playing Travis Hunter every freaking snap kind of rubs me the wrong way, because then the announcers just are praising the decision the whole time. And I just don't see how it doesn't make him worse at both. Even if he's good at both, I feel like it's going to make him eventually worse at both. Especially like, I don't know why you just don't make him cover someone just streaking down the field over and over and over just to get him to run. I don't know. I'm going with Nebraska. I think they got it in them. They better. Hith, who do you got in this one?
I got Nebraska.
All right.
The Nebraska really only had one question mark, which was actually they have one question mark and one thing which is a weakness. The question mark was Raiola, the 5-star quarterback. He didn't look like a dingus against UTEP. So it's one game, you don't want to over extrapolate, but like he hasn't embarrassed himself yet. So okay. The thing that's their problem is their offensive tackles in pass protection, which actually I watched enough to say like it's not like they fixed it. So it's an issue, but like it seems like they know it's an issue because like watching their passing structure, it didn't like it wasn't a whole bunch of long reads, like it seemed like they knew it in between having a young quarterback and sort of knowing that they had a problem, and it was sort of exacerbated, or they knew they had an injury. I won't belabor the point. On the offensive line. So like I don't think they're gonna be surprised by that as a problem. And meanwhile, Colorado, Colorado will lost to North Dakota State. North Dakota State isn't as good as the team that like won 9 national championships. They've definitely taken a step back. But they would have won that game against Colorado if the one, they were just like simply a better team, like more complete team, except for one thing, which is they didn't have any defensive backs. Like, oh my God, did they not have any defensive backs? And it was just absolutely pathetic how many, it wasn't like on every play, but like it was enough that like a dude would just be standing there and there wouldn't be a dude within 30 yards of him because like the guy who was supposed to be covering him, they'd pull back to the wide angle, on the replay or whatever, and it would be some guy who looks like 6 other days of the week is baling hay in Minot, North Dakota, would be huffing and puffing trying to keep up with a guy who looks like he plays football for a Division I school. And it's like, yeah, that was, and that was where like 90% of Colorado's yards came from.
Yeah.
And what I can tell you from watching, all Nebraska's film is that Nebraska is one of the teams in the Big Ten in which their secondary is for real. Like there are some teams in the Big Ten where their pass defense is kind of a mirage, that it's created by their pass rush, and their secondary is not actually very good. It's just they don't have to be because their pass rush gets home. Nebraska is one of the ones that actually has a for real secondary. So like I don't really think Colorado is going to be able to take advantage of that factor. Cool. So yeah, I think Nebraska's going to do pretty well, against them for that.
Oh yeah, that's another one where I think their fans deserve some happiness. It's all I'm asking. Okay, let's get on to the next one. Northwestern versus Miami, Ohio. I only watched a little bit of the fourth quarter in this one. I wish I could have watched the whole thing. It seemed like a struggle sesh. I mean, it's 13-7 against Miami, Ohio.
Sweating.
So, it was a bit rough in front of like a capacity of like 15,000 people. Looks like a good time though. I totally would have, like, if I lived in this area, I'd buy a cheap ticket, go. It looks like a blast, honestly. Looks cozy. But who are they playing? That's
a great question.
Northwestern versus Duke. This ain't Duke basketball. They aren't juggernauts, but it's Duke football. That's what I will say.
It's sports.
It is sports. We're right.
God, and they really, Duke basketball really does color the opinion of someone like me who doesn't know shit about their football. So with Northwestern struggling, I'm gonna go Duke.
Okay. Yeah,
like 12-3 or something.
Yeah, historically, Duke's been pretty bad at football. They've actually had a pretty good run recently, really riding off their defense. Since then, there's been some coach change, such like that. But I really like Northwestern. I like that they're at home due to how good they are. Like, I don't know how passionate the football fans of Northwestern are, but also the fact that you can't get many people in that stadium. I don't know how much of a home field advantage that is. I'm just going to go with Duke just because Northwestern struggled so much. But I don't know anything about Duke this year, and I barely know. I mean, I know Northwestern is maybe going to struggle a little bit. Hith, who do you got here? You back in the big, you going with the ACC? What's going on?
This one is hard, because I think both of these teams are probably pretty bad. I'm gonna go with Northwestern, but I'm not wild about it, and I'm picking almost entirely because it's Northwestern is at home. And oh my god, so okay, so here's the deal. Neither of these teams can run the ball, which is a real bad problem. Because they're going to need to run the ball because they're going to be playing on the lake, which is like a real bad problem.
I didn't even think about that. Is the wind like whipping through that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm assuming it's going to be.
Yeah.
And the problem is neither of these teams can run the ball. Like Duke played Elon, the
Musk?
FCS team. Like, I don't think they're named after him. I think he predates him. But like they could not, like they won the game 26-3, and they couldn't run the ball like at all. Like, I'm not joking about this. Like their lead running back rushed for 1.8 yards per carry. Like they could not like run at all. It was so bad. Like they like their line is atrocious. And but the thing was, like, Northwestern couldn't really run very effectively either. Like they oh my god, they just can't, like, I was not impressed with Lujan. Like, although I don't know, Wright, their new quarterback, kept throwing everything short. Like, and I thought they had opportunities against Miami Ohio to throw the ball longer, which, like, I'm not sure what was going on there. Like they, I think Northwestern has more tools to be effective, and they're at home, and I was just absolutely appalled by Duke's ineptitude. So I think Northwestern is slightly less inept, so give me Northwestern at home.
Interesting.
Fair enough.
But I think this game could be pretty chaotic because two teams with neither of whom can run the ball in a game in which passing conditions could be crazy, equals like could be major chaos, and
good football
in which they may need to punt a lot, in which punting may be crazy because of the wind. Like this could be like major time. Like
I want a 4-3 Northwestern win. That's what I'm looking for. Or
you could get like punts get blown back and it's like 70-63 on, because like every time the drive starts on the opponent's 5-yard line because of wacky punt situations.
I love it. I would buy a ticket if I lived there. Like I've been saying, that sounds like a blast. Number 2, Ohio State versus Akron. Well, Ohio State destroyed. I hear they have a receiver that just looks god tier, as Ohio State does. Yeah, so they won big. Now it's number 2 Ohio State versus Western Michigan. As I said, Western Michigan took their previous Big Ten opponent to the wire. Really came down to it, actually, and that would be against Wisconsin, I do believe, or did I mess that up? No, yeah, Wisconsin. 28-14 was the final score in that one, but it was close. Like, again, Western Michigan had to do a trick play to like make it a 1-score game late. It kind of felt like that Idaho Oregon game where it was like yes, Western Michigan has a shot at winning. Yes, this score is close, but they're probably not going to win. But it was a more even matchup. At least it felt like it than that Oregon-Idaho game too. Who do you got here though, Aaron? Ohio State, the juggernaut that is Ohio State, versus Western Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, you really put an emphasis on that juggernaut part of it.
I'll tell you this. Ohio State has struggled with teams from Michigan in its past. I'll say that.
Let's go Ohio State, I guess. It seems like the safe, correct answer from the way you say juggernaut.
Yeah.
Also, did you use 2 different graphics for Western Michigan? Because that horse does not look familiar to me.
I stretched it out. It's the same graphic, but last time it was like really stretched out.
Yeah, their logo is really horizontal. Like
it is weird. Okay, good. I thought I pulled a weird one from the internet, but apparently it's just a weird logo. PJ Fleck's old stomping grounds, Western Michigan. I'm going with Ohio State too.
Okay.
Hythloday, should I write you down for Western Michigan?
No, I have Ohio State.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Well, there we are, fellas. We did that one.
I think that the Western Michigan Wisconsin game was much more a reflection on Wisconsin not being very good.
Yes, I think Wisconsin's got some problems. I was rooting hard for Western Michigan in that one, and I was also talking so much shit on these other Big Ten teams struggling with their weaker Week 1 opponents, and then we played, and I was like, ah, damn it. Okay.
So propinquity took over as soon as you needed friends.
It always freaking does. Number 8, Penn State at West Virginia. Mountain Mama.
For real, that had a great lyrical patois to it.
Thank you. They won 34-12. Is his name Drew Allard, I believe?
Drew Allard, yes.
He threw some nice passes, I gotta say.
Yeah.
From what I watched.
As soon as the receiver cleared the defender, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I liked the way the ball was thrown. I will say that. He's not completely redeemed, but Penn State, hey, good showing. Against West Virginia, whatever, but against a living, breathing Power 5 opponent, or Power 4, I guess. They did win, so that is cool. Number 8, Penn State versus Bowling Green.
Cool.
Bowling Green,
great. Yep.
Not a P4 opponent, but who do you got here, Pith?
Penn State all day.
Aaron? Penn State. Going with Penn State. I too am going with Penn State. There's no real reason to choose Bowling Green unless you're feeling saucy. Are you back in the Nittany Lions, Hith?
Yes, I have Penn State winning.
Fair enough. We got. I'll just say this.
What kind of lion?
Nittany.
Huh.
The Penn State West Virginia game was, I think, honestly, I'm not sure how much to take away from it from Allard's performance. I actually don't think that I think he's always had the ability to throw the ball deep. The question was what was about his inclination of throwing only 5-yard passes, and he mostly did that. The only times he really did throw the ball deep were when his receivers committed obvious offensive pass interference and were not flagged for it.
Yeah.
So I still don't it's still undecided for me what the effect of him being older and having a new offensive coordinator is. I sort of think that West Virginia is kind of a mirage and maybe just is not a very good team. They were not able. So the thing was, West Virginia wasn't able to defend the Drew Allard 5-yard pass express, which means that you suck. And so I don't. We were talking about during the win totals podcast that this game determines Penn State's season, whether they hit the over or the under. And then it turned because West Virginia was looking like a good team based on Neil Brown, their coach, having a surprise good season last year. And then I'm sort of thinking that maybe was a mirage. Because West Virginia looked terrible. And they had an extended weather delay over halftime in order to regroup and rethink what they were doing. And they came out in the second half and played exactly the same game plan. They didn't have an alternate, strategy, or it's not like they committed to a bad strategy in the first half and they were oh no, we need to go back to the drawing board. They had all the time in the world to come up with an alternate strategy. They were oh no, this is all we can do. And what we can do sucks. I kind of just think that West Virginia wasn't a very good test for a team of Penn State's talent, which you have to remember, Penn State's one of the top 10 most talented teams in the country. It was never a question of whether they could out talent a team, is whether, when they play, teams that are actually good, whether they, the sort of hyper conservative way that they play will be effective, and like this was not a test for that, given that West Virginia turns out not to be a very good team, I think. So like I'm not really. Yeah, I mean, for the rest of the season, when they play the Bowling Greens of the world, I mean, like, yeah, they'll bulldoze them,
Well, yeah, maybe they needed more moonshine, Mountaineers. Purdue beat Indiana State 49-0.
Wow.
I watched 0 minutes of this. I refused to. There you go.
I feel like I picked the Sycamores.
I think you did. I got it written down. It's just in the other room. I don't want to grab it. Okay, it exists. But Rutgers versus Howard. Rutgers begins their journey towards their guaranteed 10-win season.
You're kidding me.
44-7. They beat Howard.
Purdue is the week off, don't they? They have like a weird early bye.
Yeah. Purdue's not. But there's one other team. I can't remember which, but another one has a bye. Yeah. But so they ain't doing nothing.
I'm sorry. I guess maybe I didn't bring this up last week or I didn't catch it, but there was a game, Howard.
Oh, yeah.
Does anybody, was that not lost on the crowd? I hope everyone enjoyed it. Jocular, yes.
Okay. Yes. Very fun. Rutgers versus Akron now. Akron just got destroyed by Ohio State. Do you think that same thing will happen against Rutgers, Aaron?
I mean, that graphic is really convincing. And what is that, a donkey?
I think so.
It's a kangaroo. Akron's mascot. Akron is the Zips. I don't know why.
Yeah,
and their mascot is a kangaroo. I don't know why.
I never knew that. I've seen that a million times. I always thought it was a donkey.
Joe Moorhead used to and has returned to coaching there, and so I've watched a bunch of Akron film and learned that it was a kangaroo.
That's right. Our old OC.
Well, that kind of changes everything. I think I'm going to go with Akron just because, fuck it. Let's do it, baby.
Aaron.
Let's get in there. Let's get up in there. Let's figure this out.
Aaron.
What's up?
Well, Rutgers is going to win. Don't you know? I'm going with the Scarlet Knights. Hith, you joining the upset train here, or
no? I have Rutgers. The only thing that was surprising, or even a little surprising, about the performance against Howard, although it wasn't that, was that Callie Ekmanis, had a nice passer line, although it was basically thrown against air. So I don't know. It's something to keep an eye on. If Callie, because that was the major limitation, with Rutgers last year, was that they had I'm not joking about this, literally the worst quarterback in Division I football, FBS and FCS included. And then they went and got like the second worst, who was Callie Ekmanis from Minnesota. And against Howard, he didn't look like the second worst quarterback in America. He looked like an average or maybe slightly above average quarterback, so I don't know. Maybe he's improved substantially, or maybe it was playing an FCS team. It's just a thing to keep an eye on. But he has improved substantially, it was kind of the only thing that Rutgers needed to fix in terms of their march to 10 wins for their super easy schedule. So look out.
Hell yeah. Rutgers, the Big Ten championship. We're talking here now. I love it. UCLA at Hawaii. It shouldn't have been 16-13.
Oh boy.
Hawaii is still.
No, this is the other one that has the week off.
Yeah. UCLA. Yeah. Will not be playing, but I'll just let you know this, Aaron. I didn't watch much of this either, actually.
I watched because for weird reasons. Weird reasons. I had to do the video editing because it was on CBS.
That's why I didn't.
Which, oh my god, the commercial breaks on CBS. My goodness, it's like every 5 minutes is a commercial. UCLA's offensive line is garbage. Like just pure garbage. I mean, they're not human beings or such thing as a garbage human being, but they cannot pass protect at all. They can't run the ball, which is crazy. Like nothing
against Hawaii.
Yeah, which like Hawaii, it should be said, Oregon played Hawaii last year, and like I had actually spent some time diving, quite a bit into Hawaii because also Alik Terry, Oregon's offensive line coach, was their offensive line coach back in 2021, and like Todd Graham ran that program into the ground. Alik Terry was his offensive line coach. Also, Dan Lanning comes off of Todd Graham's tree, not directly through Hawaii, but anyway, Hawaii was a real bad team. The offensive line was kind of a bright spot on the team. Like they were the least bad part about it, which is why I was sort of a believer in Alik Terry. But then they got, after Todd Graham basically was fired for running a toxic program. They got, Timmy Chang, who was legendary quarterback there. And the thing that was immediately appreciable about Hawaii was that he was turning the culture around. The people just liked playing for him, and it was it was sort of apparent that that program was on the upswing. I really liked how tough they played. They were getting beat, but they were playing tough. They were playing through the whistle. They put teams on the ropes. I liked it. I was one of the things I was writing about. And I was really sad that the game got canceled because I really liked writing about Hawaii. And so I was actually really dug watching that UCLA Hawaii game because when they noted that UCLA couldn't protect at all, they went hard. They really leveraged their advantage and just went, they figured out that they had an advantage and they leveraged it. And I was just yes, I just liked seeing that. Anyway, even though I've been, I wrote a lot about how I was a believer in UCLA this year and I think they would go far. I was always noting the Achilles heel is how this offensive line would protect. And the answer is if you're playing a team that notices that their offensive line can't protect and they can put Ethan Garbers on his back, they would only score 16 points. And I mean, it was tied 13-13 with 30 seconds left. UCLA had to kick a last second field goal to win that game in Hawaii. It was that's how just the offense was completely shut down by how bad that offensive line is. Oregon fans, it can get worse in terms of offensive line foreplay. Holy cow. Yeah. So that's going to be their deal all year long. I mean, and but here's the thing. Here's the other thing though, is that UCLA's defense may not be as bad as we were kind of worried about with the departures of their NFL defensive ends and Danton Lynn and so forth, because Hawaii's actually got a pretty explosive passing offense. Schrager and Ashton and some of those other guys. Remember when I wrote up Hawaii last year and Oregon effectively sort of shut them down was one of the things we sort of, hey, Oregon might have something going here on the defense, and they finished 14th in F+. One of the reasons was that they didn't allow Hawaii to have a single play that was explosive at all, and Hawaii, UCLA basically did the same thing to Hawaii. So actually kind of, that's sort of the silver lining there for UCLA's defense may not have fallen off as badly as is predicted. It's really just the offensive line is just terrible is what UCLA's deal is. But anyway, they don't have a game this week, so we'll have to wait to see in the future.
Well, we just want to shout out.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, sometimes
week 2 bye,
it is weird.
What?
Well, there's 2 buys this year. This is one of the 14-week season years, so there's 2 buys.
Oh shit. Okay.
Shout out to Hawaii. We love you, Rainbow Warriors. You're absolutely one of our favorite teams. So we wanted you to win this one, but we're always shooting for you. This was probably the biggest game that the winner is going to get boosted up, and then later on in the season you realize that week 1 game didn't mean as much. But if you're a USC fan, you should be stoked because you beat an SEC team. Number 23 USC versus number 13 LSU. Yeah, Hythloday and I both went with LSU in this one because we've seen a lot of USC over the years, but USC had a defense. It was pretty cool. They had some big plays and they needed it. They looked a little more composed. They got Brian Kelly super angry after the loss, so that's all pretty fun. Yeah, that's cool. I like it. It's in Vegas, I believe. Yeah,
I hate to say it, but you should always expect LSU to not perform very well first week because let's be honest here, these kids live in New Orleans. They need a little extra time to sober up.
They live in Baton Rouge, most of them, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Baton Rouge. They're in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Still, same story. I was drinking in bars openly. No one cared when I was 19 in Baton Rouge. Like, not a big deal.
So you think the whole team was drunk? It was that close.
No, they're just in a space where like stuff is pretty relaxed. And so, you got to let them like
not football fandom though. You crazy. Well, what do you think of
this?
It
ain't Texas football in Louisiana. Let me tell you like that.
Oh my. Number 23 USC versus Utah State. Utah State is not favored, I'll tell you that much, especially after
USC's of course win. They're not, but you put up such good graphics that it convinces me.
That's how I get you.
And so this go around, you know what? I got people down in LA. I'm going to stick with USC.
That's smart. I thought I was going to get you there, but I
that
also
bowl is so
will go
dope.
with USC. It is really good. And you see a lot of like Bison Bowl Buffalo logos.
Aaron, is it relevant to you to know that the last time Utah State's quarterback played USC, he beat him?
Was he on Utah State?
No.
Then
he was playing for a Utah team though.
Oh, because he was a what you call him?
He was a Ute.
He was a Ute. He's one of the Utes, and I love the Utes. Who's the quarterback?
Bryson Barnes.
Oh, Bryson Barnes. The
pig farmer.
Does that change?
You know what? I think we've learned though that like quarterback, you also have to have receivers. I don't know. Utah State. I feel like Adam's trying to set me up here, and I should just go USC. And I think that you're fuel of the fire, so I'm going to stick with USC.
I am worried about you, Aaron. You're definitely picking wiser than Adam is. So.
Yeah, that's true. I'm having some fun. This season. Hith. So you sound pretty confident in Utah State. You sticking with that?
No, I got USC.
If this was Stanford, then absolutely USC would lose. But no.
I don't really think Utah State's very good. Honestly, the USC LSU game was fun as hell to watch. I certainly don't think it was inevitable that LSU lost that game. I mean, it was just a game in which both teams had just unbelievable wide receiver talent and then nothing else.
Yeah.
And so it was just not literally Hail Marys, but I mean, like they couldn't, neither team ran the ball. Like basically like
funny,
like there was no rushing offense, there was no defense, there was no offensive line protection, like nothing. It was just like nothing. Amazing catch, like amazing one-handed catch, like, for both teams. And it was just USC had, one, a couple more amazing improbable catches than LSU had amazing improbable catches. I mean, I think if you played this game 100 times, it's like 50-50, and that every game looks the same, which is, nothing happens except for, amazing catches. So like, it's the kind of game that college football fans love watching because it's like, chaos and nonsense, but like, like these teams aren't good. Like,
it was a good time. It's absolutely the week one overreaction, probably, especially because it was the only game on that day, the only big game. And
but like the leading receiver for USC was Kyron Hudson. With 5 receptions for 83 yards because he's their possession receiver, as opposed to all the young, hot shots. Right, Mekhi Lemon and like all those guys, right? Because like they would get like one amazing catch that would knock your socks off, but like the steady producer got 5 catches for 83 yards, right? Like, and that's their lead, Meanwhile, Woody Marks gets like 16 carries and produces 68 yards because like neither of these teams can run, right? Like it was just like, these aren't complete teams like at all. Yeah. Anyway.
But good game. Washington versus Weber State, 35-3. I was hoping this was after the Oregon game. I was hoping it'd be the thing where Washington is making fun of us and then just gets, completely embarrassed on their own terms. Weber State didn't have it in them. They did.
Well, I mean, Washington was having a hard time moving the ball until sort of the end. I mean, if you look at the quarter by quarter, like they don't really pour on the points until the end of the game. But
it was like I was definitely watching it for a while until it became okay. It's not gonna happen. But there was a semblance of some kind of funny upset. But they have lost an FCS team before. I'll just say that. Washington versus Eastern Michigan is the next to go. Washington is heavily favored. I'll tell you that, Aaron. Who you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think Huskies.
Yeah, you're probably right. I hope they look bad while doing it, but Washington's got it. Most likely, anyways.
Yeah.
You're choosing the Sun Dodgers, Hith?
Yes, I have Washington in this game.
I figured. Well, we only got one more. We only have one more, and that is Wisconsin, who, as we said, just played Western Michigan University. See, look at that logo. That's the one I used last time. It's very wide. It's wonky. I don't like it. That's why I scrunched it up.
Oh, it looks exactly the same to me. I see no difference.
If you did it side by
side, it's more stretched out. out.
Yeah. 28-14. This game was close, though. The Wisconsin faithful would tell you dangerously close. Now they're going against South Dakota. I think the Coyotes, I believe.
Wisconsin versus South Dakota. We were talking about how Wisconsin is probably... No, that was a different team, Minnesota. So I'm going to stick with Wisconsin.
I'm also going with Wisconsin. There's not going to be, after what I saw in week 1, unless they drastically improve, there's probably not going to be many times this year I pick Wisconsin. But this week, I'm going with South Dakota. It seems like the right thing to do. They're going to be...
Wait, you're going with South Dakota?
Oh, no, I'm going with Wisconsin. Did I say... Yeah, I'm going with Wisconsin.
You did.
Well, I take it back. You're not going to lock me in on that one. Hith, who do you got here?
I have Wisconsin. South Dakota is not that South Dakota. That South Dakota State's the defending national champions. South Dakota's not a great team.
Love the Jackrabbits, but this ain't them.
Very, very quickly, Hythloday, could you remind me did you pick over or under for Wisconsin for the season?
I can't remember what their win total was. I can tell you. I
just wanted to remember.
I picked Wisconsin to win 5 games. I'm not sure what their win total was. But I had them. I had them beating Western Michigan, South Dakota. I'm losing to Alabama, and then I have them losing I don't know.
I went and got the freaking list, Aaron. If you're gonna not.
I have them going.
I didn't realize you were telling me to stop asking that.
Well, Hith is under. Hith chose under.
Okay,
Wisconsin.
I have them going 4-5 in conference. And then for some reason they're playing Alabama in the non-con. So that adds up to 6 losses.
Sorry, I have them going. Go get that.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. I have them going 3-6 in conference.
Jeez.
Oh yeah.
Terrible.
And then so I'll just we all chose the favorites. Well, let me click on this button first.
The
picks. That's right. Here is the results of ours. Adam,
wow,
the very back here with 14 points. I got too cocky. It's mainly because I went with EIU. I also went with we all chose the same except for it was that Minnesota UNC game. Hith and Adam went with UNC. Aaron went with Minnesota.
So Hith did miss one.
Yeah,
Hith did miss one.
LSU.
Bravo, sir.
Yeah,
Bravo.
the USC LSU. Hith and I went with LSU. You went with USC.
Yeah, because I know. Because
the other one was Hawaii UCLA, which I felt really cautious about choosing Hawaii, but I really wanted to, so I went with them.
Close.
As did Aaron. Yeah, we almost got that one.
I mean, I knew better than to pick them, obviously, but like we agree, it's one of the greatest logos of all time, and I just love them as a team and an idea.
I mean, honestly, it was the closest. I mean, the Big Ten went 17-1 this weekend.
Wow.
The Pac-12 went 11-1 too.
The only loss was UNC beating Minnesota,
which was close.
Yeah.
And then I picked West Virginia against Penn State. So I don't know what was going through my little head. But Hythloday leads with 17. Aaron right behind him with 16. Adam with 14. That's where we stand.
This is a great race, y'all.
Thus far, starting strong. And that is us picking the big bottom. And that's mainly our show. I mean,
we did it.
Surprising week 1, scary week 1. You will be able to read all about that game and Hythloday's analysis with it over at Addicted to Quack. We'll have that link in the description of this very episode. So go over there, read the duct tape over at ATQ. And if you'd like to help us out, we got some fun stuff over on our Quack 12 Patreon, where for a measly $5 a month, you can get access to hundreds of hours of duck-themed entertainment, including, I felt, you know what, I'm going to put up, Aaron and I did a review of the famous Oregon versus Oregon State game, the Toilet Bowl. That is right, the 0-0 infamous tie. We watched the whole game. We gave our thoughts. I think we watched the second half, actually, now that I'm remembering. Which was a great half of football. Go over there if you want to hear that commentary. I think this is the week to release that, considering what we did against Idaho. Feels right. Hythloday, thanks so much for hopping on this week, as always.
It was my pleasure. My preview of Boise State, the film reviews of the Ducks football games are going to be written by my colleague Tristan Holmes this year. There's 18 Big Ten teams. I can't be doing 2 articles a week. It's just too much film study. So Tristan's going to be doing the Ducks write-ups, although we're both going to be charting the games. We compare notes but he does the actual, write-ups and video documentation and so forth. But I do the previews of upcoming opponents. So
nice.
My preview of Boise State will be up on Addicted to Quack on Friday morning.
Hopefully we get, if it all goes according to plan, we should have an interview with the Boise State aficionado, fan, podcaster, commentator coming up on this very feed too with Hythloday, so that should be fun. I hate that team. Aaron, any wise words to take us out?
No, there's no point. We're gonna win next week. Everything's fine. We're gonna fucking go. We're gonna go. We're like what people consider the best audio. We will be lossless.
That's beautiful. Man, that's beautiful. From the audio engineer himself. Well, listeners, we'll see y'all next week. I will either be stoked or miserable, but that's the way it goes. Quack, quack. Bye.